Cool. Welcome, all of you. Now, this is the longest couch of the day as well, so it was a really great change. I'm glad that, Raymond, you didn't fall off the back there. The other thing as well that I love to see is, Sean, you are being brand loyal to Sean as well, so nice placement there too. Okay, so the way we're going to do this is we're going to do a quick fire series of questions, and then we've got some questions for each of the panelists to talk a little bit about their career journey. All right, so I'm going to start with Raymond. You've got one ticket to go anywhere in the world. Where would it be?
Damn. I would say Australia. Best place on earth for those that haven't been to Australia. The weather's unreal. Work-life balance. I think, currently I'm working in Singapore where I think hours are like 9 to 7:30. Australia is definitely a place where you can enjoy 9 to 3:30. Coffee shops close at 3 p.m. It's just an unreal place. And for those that haven't gone, definitely next chance you can get a plane ticket to Sydney.
Excellent. Now, this next question, for anybody who knows Jenna, will make total sense. So, Jenna, my question is, do you choose the shoes to match your outfit or the outfit to match your shoes?
I think you would imagine that I would say the shoes to match the outfit. Mm-hmm. So I'll play into that.
No, I don't need to play into anything. You can be honest.
No, I don't. Okay. Yeah, I mean, look, as someone that has hundreds of pairs of shoes, I have the extreme benefit of being able to wear whatever I want and find the shoes to match. So probably the shoes to match the outfit.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah.
So, Sean, you've got 1 hour left before going to bed, and you've been binge watching your favorite series. I'm actually, Sean, not Sean. Sorry. We sat them next to each other, which is not very helpful. Sean, what would you watch if we had 1 more hour before going to bed?
So if I had 1 hour before going to bed, I think the question is, would I watch the next episode in a series? I guess the answer really depends on if my wife is asleep or not at this point. If she is, then it's cheating if I go ahead. I forget the term for that. But it's stream cheating, that's what they call it. So I would probably go to bed. So the more likely answer is I would go to bed because she falls asleep during every show we watch. So that's probably what will happen on my side.
I think that's pretty universal. What I end up doing is I end up watching the show and then remembering exactly the timer and go back to that point and pretend I haven't watched it. That's my secret.
Very calculated.
That's my point.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's universal, right? Okay, Sean. Now, this is a good question for you because I know you do a lot of intercontinental flying. Okay, so you got into your seat. You're looking through the movie options. Are you going to watch an oldie but favorite? Or are you going to go for the latest movie on the plane?
Right. Yeah. So I do fly quite a lot.
Yeah.
And I think I'm one of those lucky people that sleep for about 80% of the flight. So I rarely watch films on flights, but because it's New York and because it's this time of year, I think You've Got Mail with Tom Hanks and Meg Ryan is my favorite.
Good call. Okay, so we're going to start with Jenna because you're closest to me. But anybody who knows Jenna, in the last couple of months, you've taken on a huge new role, right? Spotting the brand right there, which is a huge career decision to make, right? I'm sure it wasn't an easy one either because you loved your former team and some of them are here right as well today. I don't want to make you cry. So what are some of the factors you have to weigh when you're making such a big decision?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think I've been asked this question before because the majority of my career was actually in retail technology. And so the question always tends to revolve around why retail? And, I think I took this opportunity to move from retail tech into retail because I really wanted to see how the other half lives. I really wanted to understand, as retail technologists, how is technology really purchased? How is it budgeted for? What does, cross-channel alignment really mean? What does building stakeholder alignment really mean? And so I thought if I went over to retail, I could really figure it out. And so I had the pleasure of being at Snipes for 4 years and worked to build that digital practice. And when I stumbled across the opportunity with Solo Brands, this really is giving me an opportunity to learn the rest of the retail business. Solo Brands is vertical. It also allows me, instead of running digital strategy for one brand, I actually get to run digital strategy for 6 brands, which is kind of wild. It's also a public portfolio company, so working for a public company is also very exciting and new for me. So overall, I want to keep learning. I want to continue to expand my knowledge of retail and continue to remain relevant and to become an expert in my field. And so I thought this was a great opportunity to do that.
Fantastic. Now, Raymond, obviously trying to work with management is super important, right? And what we find is, in research we did earlier this year, the fraud and digital leaders who are most successful are the ones who can kind of engage the executives and really make them understand. What are you doing within Shopback to kind of report up and engage with your leadership team?
Yeah, great question, David. I would say that I definitely concur with that statement. The teams, organizations that really work closely with their management team are the ones that will probably be able to drive their agendas, really get the outcomes that you're seeking. I'll talk a little bit about on an operational side, like what we do at Shopback, especially in the risk team, that I think we do well. But I won't take full credit for it because it is a page out of the Amazon book. There's something that we run on a monthly basis, which is called a risk review. And there's three things that we try to achieve in this risk review. One is review our KPIs. Two is to address observed deviations. And then the third one is to align on short and long-term goals. And how we run this forum is we run this forum in a way called a 6-pager. So this is straight from Amazon. We don't do PowerPoints. We send pre-reads out with all this documented material. And we allow our exec team to read this material before we head into a meeting. When we head into this meeting, what we do is we only address comments because we expect the material to be read. And we use this forum to help us, number one, build trust. Number two, remove any sort of misalignments that we have between our team and also the objectives on a company level. This has been something that we've been running since 2 years ago. We do this every month, and it really helps the risk organization at Shopback drive agendas. And when things pop up, we don't have to seek alignment because it's something that we do on a monthly basis.
That's great. And I think, Scott was showing the Fodder Connect stuff earlier. We've been talking about that in terms of being able to show CLTV. And I think being able to show metrics in a way that's easily understood and visual is also key to kind of getting that management engagement too, right?
Yeah.
So Sean, mentorship. Hopefully you've watched Sean's video of decision makers. And one of the things you talk about is your entry into fraud and risk, right? Which you originally doing graphic design when you got a job at ASOS. So talk about the power of mentorship, and I know you do a lot within Women in Digital and various other things. Talk about that power.
Yeah, definitely. So I think, for me, mentorship has been instrumental in my career and my development over the last 10, 15 years. I think it's a really, really powerful tool. It's something that's helped me develop, especially in terms of confidence. I think if you'd met me 10 years ago, there's no way I would be sat on the stage right now talking about my career. So I think it's been instrumental in that. I think one of the things, you called it out yesterday, David, was Forta are actually starting their mentor program. Yeah. So obviously speak to David if you want to know more about that, which I think is absolutely brilliant. I think the advice I could give around mentorship is, I think becoming really aware of where your skill gaps are, where you need to develop, where there's areas of development. And then for me, one of the best bits of advice I ever heard was treat everybody like they have something to teach you. And I think I'm really open-minded to that. So I've been able to find mentorships not just through formal programs, but more informal programs. So I'm constantly looking, even, I spoke to quite a few of you today, and I'm thinking, is there anything that I can learn from this individual? And I want to stay connected, and I think it's just really, really important to do that. So it's worked for me, and I'm really pleased to hear that Forta are launching their mentorship.
So just to give a little bit more context, there's actually a program in Europe called Fraud Labs that we launched maybe about a year ago or so. And it was really about bringing members of the community together in different locations, so in London and Manchester and Paris. And what we found is, no surprise, people like to come together and share ideas and actually be part of a broader community that can discuss common issues. And so one of the things we're launching in Q1 is the Fraud Labs Mentor Program. So it's going to have people like people in this room, right, who are shaping the way that they think about their organizations, they're shaping the way they think about their careers, and working with other folks in the fraud industry to kind of help to show the way of the future of digital commerce. So more to come, launching in Q1, but we think that as a community element, that's a really important part of continuing to grow and evolve the work that we all do. So, last but not least, and I'm going to double the questions back to you, Sean, so you don't feel unloved, right? So, over the last few years, ASICS has made some huge bets in terms of shifting more energy to digital commerce. How are you engaging, again, we'll come back to the executive leadership, right? But how are you engaging them in making those decisions?
Yeah, so to understand some context, when I joined ASICS, we were a traditional wholesale company. 65% of our revenue actually came through wholesale. So the big bets that David's speaking to are really trying to transition that company to not just a direct-to-consumer mindset, but also trying to make direct-to-consumer well thought after. When you look at digital, it was 8% of the total revenue back in 2018 when I joined this company. Nowadays, it's actually going to be over 35% of our revenue, and direct-to-consumer is now 55% in total. So in order to really make this transition, it was all about building trust. So I feel like I'm stealing a line out of the Forder playbook from today, but I sat in a lot of the sessions, and it was all about trust, and really it's about educating the organization about the importance of digital, how it works, and how it can live in conjunction with your wholesale organization. I think when you're in the footwear industry, which a few folks in this room actually are, there is that inherent conflict that you have between the channels. So it's really carving out, the strategy for your distribution, the policies that you have, and making sure that those are all ironed out, and making sure that as a digital portion of the business, we're representing the premium nature of the brand. So it's really just about building the trust within the org.
Mm-hmm. And I guess I've got a follow-up question there, right? Because you mentioned you've been with the company about 6 years. In that time, you went from being like a director to VP. You've now got 1,000 people, is that right, in your organization?
Yeah.
So there comes an inflection point where you can kind of make that jump. Can you trace it back to a decision that you made that was like so influential in helping you get to where you are now?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I think when I think back, and I think when I was younger in my career, I used to think that every decision I made would instantly impact the trajectory of my career. Like you think everything you're doing is hanging in a balance. I think when it all boils down to really is saying yes more. And I don't mean being a yes person, like your boss doesn't walk down the hallway and say, give me $10 million more tomorrow, and you go, yes, sir, or yes, ma'am. I mean like taking a chance on yourself. So when opportunities present themselves to take over new portions of the business or to increase your responsibility, even if you have no experience in that, be confident and take the leap. So really good examples is, I also oversee our retail channels. I have no corporate experience in retail prior to 2019. Because of the digital growth, they came to me and said, we think we should make this one organization. Do you think you can do it? At the time I said, yes, let's take a shot at it. COVID happened. That was a pretty quick learning experience in 6 months to shut down retail at the same time. But again, it was making a bet on myself and my team that we could figure it out, make strides, make progress, and you're definitely gonna falter. You're definitely gonna make mistakes, especially when you don't have that experience, but that's part of the learning curve. And then lo and behold, it happened a year later again with the customer service org. We arguably were the worst in the industry. Again, COVID happened. We had 100,000 email backlog, which is just despicable, if you ask me personally. But they came and said, do you want to take a crack at this? And I said, sure, there must be a better way to do it. So it all boils down to really just saying yes and taking chances.
So I can see Sean is nodding along next to you right there, right? And I mentioned earlier that you came into this industry in an interesting way, right? You were doing graphic design and wanted to get basically paid to do something. And so talk about your evolution a little bit in terms of making that first contact, figuring out the role it is, also now where you are at Farfetch.
Yeah, definitely. So to David's point, and I think it's in the Decision Maker video as well, I didn't have any money, I needed a job. I went down to a local temping agency and they said that we have a position at ASOS.com in the fraud department. So I was like, that's fine, I'm getting paid more than I am right now cleaning. So it felt like the right thing to do. And then from there, I think when I joined, I just always wanted to make things better, I think. I like problem solving, I like working with people. So I think just over time, I started as a chargeback analyst, fraud screening agent, and then just worked my way through. And to your point, Sean, around just saying yes, it's like people talk about careers all the time and they say, oh, you must be really lucky, right? Because I've moved pretty swiftly through the ranks at ASOS and then made that decision to move to Farfetch. But I think for me, it isn't about luck, right? The opportunity's luck, but being ready for it is where you can kind of have a bit of control and just being open to it. So I'm constantly open to learning because when the opportunity does arise, which might be considered luck, you're ready to take the next step. You know, and moving to Farfetch was a huge decision for me. I'd been at ASOS for 10 years. I felt really comfortable there. Everybody knew who I was. Everybody trusted what I said, what I did. And, you know, sometimes I didn't even need a business case because they truly believed that, you know, if I said I was going to do something, I was going to do it. And then to come to Farfetch and not have that kind of trust and relationships, it was, at the beginning it was a shock. So this time last year I was questioning that decision. But like Sean also mentioned, I don't think there's such a thing as like a wrong decision, right? No. It didn't, you know, it's just another decision in the many decisions you're going to make along the trajectory of your career.
Cool. So I'm going to switch gears a little bit and ask Raymond about, again, a topic that comes up a lot around account takeover, right? And this is something I know you've battled pretty much in the last year or two. Can you talk about kind of how you've been addressing that and trying to solve for that within your organization?
Yeah, thanks, David. I think on the topic of ATO, I'm sure that's not a new topic for everyone in this room. But on top of ATO, I think another common problem statement that keeps me up at night is duplicate accounts, promo abuse, the same actors coming into your ecosystem. At Shopback, we offer credit to users that are authenticated. So definitely one of the problems that we have are people who are purporting to be another person and then coming into our ecosystem to obtain more credit or to abuse other parts of our ecosystem. So for us, it's been a journey since I've been at Shopback for 2 years to how do we continually, iteratively improve our risk tech stack to address this. And I think a lot of people in this room, we probably have some binary rules, we have some basic detection. Similarly for us, it's, does this user have the same device ID? Does this user have the same email, phone, IP address? And one of the things that we've been thinking about more and more is how do we get to a stage where we move away from hard linking. So hard linking are, common attributes that you can definitely see, but more moving to triangulating all the different signals that you have to then say that they are the same individual. And I will give some kudos to Forta because I think they do this exceptionally well. And we've been on this journey to sort of build something in-house. And can actually talk about it now. It's something that my team is working on right at this moment. And what we found is that in order to get to the level of sophistication that Forta is at, you actually have to have a lot of agents labeling your data. So for people that are well-versed in machine learning, you have to train your models off a training set. And for us, in order to have a training set where you say that this individual is the same as this other individual, you have to actually eyeball it, because if your data already says they're linked, then you don't need the machine learning model. So for us, we found that challenging because you have to invest a lot of time to build this technology. So it's something that we're now trying to explore to see how can we leverage Forta's expertise whilst we work in the background to sort of get our technology to where we want it to get to. It really is an effort versus reward, and it really depends on where you are at as an organization. I would say that Shopback is not a startup, but we're not really a big tech company. We're probably a scale up. So it's something that we're thinking about now, because I think policies, rules are things that we already have, like most of us in this room. How do we get to that next level to incrementally make more savings for our company? So it's definitely something that we're looking to Forta's expertise to help solve.
Excellent. Now, I'm going to round out the conversation with a topic that has become more and more important in the last few years, and that's really brand building. Because in many respects, it takes approvals from lots of people to be able to come and do what we're doing today. You have to get a lot of work done with legal and corporate to get video and stories published. But I'm going to start with Jenna, because I think you've done a really nice job in really understanding how you've built your brand and working with not only companies like Forta, but also Salesforce in really thinking about how you present yourself into the industry. If you were to give people one piece of advice, like in terms of brand building, what would that be?
You know, it's interesting. I think you bring up a good point. You know, I'm building the brand on the back of the partnership. And I think it's important to think through what are the variables that really make up a successful partnership. And I can speak to the relationship that I've had the pleasure of building with Forder and with Salesforce over time. And it's really about vision, reciprocity, and trust. And all the way from the beginning of the sales cycle, if you have an untrustworthy sales cycle and trust is broken in the process, the relationship is doomed. But if you have an open and trustworthy and transparent sales process, you implement a strong piece of technology with great results, and you have something really exciting to talk about in market, the ability to leverage reciprocity to drive your own agenda is really, really strong. And so what happens is you create this connection in this relationship where executives really lean into the relationship, and you hit so many success metrics in the relationship because you're getting great economies, right? You're negotiating transparently. You're sharing your vision for what you need with this technology, so you get to impact their roadmap, their product development, and how that impacts your agenda. And then from a reciprocity perspective, everybody kind of wins, right? You're getting better economies, better product. They're getting advocacy and evangelism from you, and the result is this amazing opportunity to build your brand, to connect with rooms full of people and talk about solo brands, right? To make it a place that people want to work at, that creates opportunities for you to go buy some dope fire pits that don't have any smoke that come out of them. You for an opportunity to look for open recs and jobs so we can acquire new talent. And so, you know, I think trust is a really, really big piece of it. And I do think there's also a commitment from the executive. I think a lot of executives have a habit of signing a contract and walking away and going back to their teams and saying, okay, tell me when we're driving value, right? And they don't get in the weeds, and they don't learn about the technology, and they don't understand how it sits into their architecture or into their tech stack. And so the piece of advice that I would give through the lens of this kind of three-legged stool of reciprocity, vision, and trust is, as an executive, as a buyer, stay connected to your contract, stay connected to the relationship, and reinvest back into it, because it's gonna pay off in spades.
Fantastic. So anybody else want to add into that perspective as well, right? Or clearly you're investing in your own personal brands as well. Any other guidance that you would want to give to the audience? Look it up, Mike.
Sure, I guess I'll jump in the next time. No, I would say that to add on to what Jenna said, it's not just about understanding the technology. I think as a leader in an organization, I try to instill in my team the same thing that I try to practice every day, which is also understanding the trials and tribulations that they're going through on a daily basis. So it's understanding your partnerships, the technology, but it's also staying close to the ground, right? Like I think as you grow in an organization, so many people, and speaking to mentorship, so many people become far removed from the actual business and the operations that they lose a little bit of touch with their team. So I'd say to add on to that, it's really keeping in touch with your team and what your team's working on.
Lots of nodding from the end of the couch. Anything from Sean or Raymond?
Go for it.
No, I would just, I would agree on echo the.
Yeah, retailers are kind of cagey too, right? Sometimes we don't want to share all the data. We don't want to share all of our ideas. Share with your vendors.
Yeah.
Be a good partner.
Cool. All right, well, you can understand why they're all decision makers. I mean, it's so great to be able to be personally involved with all of you and telling your stories. So I want to say thank you for joining us here, and also thank you for investing in the relationship with Forder and also the broader community. So thank you very much.